The ice that grounded an industry. On March 22, 1992, US Airways Flight 405 lifted off from New York's LaGuardia Airport with 51 people aboard. 73 seconds later, 27 of them were dead, and the aviation industry was about to spend billions rethinking everything they thought they knew about ice. Welcome to the Fiscal Record. I'm your host, and today we're examining how one 73-second tragedy reshuffled the entire economics of aircraft de-icing, an industry that hadn't fundamentally changed its approach since the 1960s. Let's set the scene. March 22, 1992. Winter in New York wasn't quite finished with the city. That morning, temperatures hovered just above freezing, around 34 degrees Fahrenheit. LaGuardia Airport was experiencing what meteorologists call freezing rain, a deceptively beautiful weather phenomenon where rain falls through a subfreezing layer of air and instantly freezes on contact with anything it touches. The aircraft involved was a Fokker F-28, a twin-engine regional jet built in the Netherlands. These planes were workhorses for US Airways, the nation's fifth-largest airline at the time. US Airways operated approximately 400 of these aircraft, each carrying between 60 and 80 passengers. The company's entire operational strategy hinged on these reliable, fuel-efficient regional jets. On the morning of the 22nd, the Fokker was scheduled for a routine flight to Cleveland, Ohio. Standard route. Standard crew. The captain had over 8,000 flight hours. The first officer had over 4,000. This wasn't a crew problem. What happened was something far more insidious. Here's where the physics matter. An aircraft achieves lift through the shape of its wings. That curved surface creates pressure differences that generate upward force. But ice, even a microscopic layer of ice, disrupts that shape. It's not about weight, though ice does add weight. It's about aerodynamic corruption. A layer of ice just 1 mm thick can reduce wing lift by up to 25%. 2 mm thick? You're looking at a 50% reduction in lift capacity. The Fokker F-28 was de-iced before takeoff. US Airways followed all FAA protocols. The de-icing fluid was applied. The aircraft was deemed airworthy. But here's the problem: de-icing fluid isn't permanent. It's a protective coating that degrades over time. In freezing rain conditions, the window between de-icing application and takeoff is measured in minutes, sometimes seconds. The Fokker pushed back from the gate at 3:37 p.m. Ground temperatures were 36 degrees Fahrenheit. The aircraft taxied for approximately 18 minutes before receiving clearance for takeoff. That taxi time mattered. During those 18 minutes, freezing rain continued to coat the wings with a fresh layer of ice that accumulated faster than the de-icing application had designed for. At 3:59 p.m., the Fokker began its takeoff roll on runway 22. The engine screamed. The airspeed indicator climbed toward 160 knots, the V1 speed, the point of no return. At 160 knots, you cannot safely abort a takeoff. You're committed. The nose lifted. The wheels left the ground. But something was catastrophically wrong. The aircraft rose only 35 feet above the runway before the pilots realized it wasn't generating enough lift. The stall warning system began screaming in the cockpit. The pilot attempted to lower the landing gear to create additional drag and reduce airspeed, hoping that might help the plane gain altitude. It didn't work. The aircraft descended toward the ground, struck an approach lighting system, struck an ILS antenna, struck a blast fence, and finally came to rest partially inverted in Flushing Bay, just 800 feet beyond the runway threshold. Of the 51 people aboard, 27 perished. 24 survived. The captain died at the scene. A flight attendant died. 25 passengers never went home that night. The National Transportation Safety Board launched an immediate investigation. Their findings were sobering: the aircraft had accumulated ice during taxi. That ice had reduced wing lift by approximately 8%, not enough to prevent takeoff in ideal circumstances, but in marginal conditions with a heavy fuel load and warm outside air creating density altitude issues, it was fatal. The fallout was seismic. The FAA issued Airworthiness Directive the 7th of July, 92, which fundamentally changed how regional airlines operated in winter weather. Airlines were now required to minimize ground time during de-icing procedures. No more 18-minute taxis after de-icing application. New protocols required aircraft to proceed directly to the runway after de-icing or to apply de-icing fluid a second time before takeoff. US Airways faced $37 million in lawsuits. The aircraft manufacturer faced millions more. But the real cost was measured in regulatory compliance. Airlines industry-wide spent an estimated $450 million implementing new de-icing procedures, purchasing new equipment, and training personnel between 1992 and 1998. Fokker aircraft never recovered from the reputational damage. The company, already struggling financially, ceased operations in 1997. An entire manufacturer was effectively eliminated from the market, not because their aircraft was fundamentally unsafe, but because the economics couldn't sustain the new operating requirements imposed after the crash. Today, every regional airline in America has anti-ice protocols that trace directly back to March 22, 1992. Your flight delay on a winter day, when the pilot insists on a full de-icing procedure and minimal ground time. That's the financial legacy of Flight 405. Every hour that aircraft sits at the gate getting sprayed with de-icing fluid costs the airline approximately $2,000. But it might save your life. This video is for educational purposes only, not financial advice. Subscribe to the Fiscal Record for more financial history that shaped the world you live in.